Marshall Mathers IV here. I really wish that Ang Lee's 2003 Hulk movie, which came out on June 20 in the year 2003, would have never existed. Because it is just such a shitty, poor attempt at not only a Hulk movie, but a superhero movie in general. And I think it would have been for the best if it would have never been made in the first damn place. But I will say this, as a kid in the early 2000s, when I was 6 years old, on my aunt's TV, when I spent the night at her house when I was a little kid, I watched some of the movie, about like halfway through, and what I saw and remember, I liked, and I thought was cool, at the time that is, and that's one of the great things about being a kid, because you don't really notice things that are actually bad, and suck complete balls. And there's just so much I have to say about this movie. Starting with the worst thing of all about it, which is the comic book style. And that is just the most god-awful idea that anyone, no offense, could ever have when making a movie. And Ang Lee doing that himself came at a risk. And it clearly wasn't a good and definitely not great idea. And then the special effects in general suck and are just so fucking bad. I mean, think of the special effect when Eric Bana's Bruce Banner finally does get the gamma radiation exposure. That scene is not only laughable, but fake as fuck. It is just horrendous and just absolutely, without a doubt, horrible. And did he become the Hulk after that? No, he did not. He ended up in a hospital bed. And it still, even after that, took a certain amount of time for him to finally become the Hulk. And then there's the CGI of the Hulk, which is just so fake, so terrible, so horrible, so god-awful, so fake, and just utter garbage. And honestly, I can't help but laugh when I see so many comments. Of course, these are only people who not only support but also defend the movie, which is obviously very underrated. And it's fine they do that, because everyone's entitled to their own opinion after all, even if they're wrong. And they definitely are dead wrong. But these people, and you can literally look up any scenes of that Hulk movie from 2003, and I guarantee you'll see tons of comments by people saying that this CGI Hulk is better than that of 2008's The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. And I just can't believe when I see comments that say that. I mean, my mind just stops and shuts down, because I'm just in utter shock that anyone could actually believe or think that. And then there will even be some people who even say that the 2003 Hulk CGI is better than that of the Avengers Hulk. Not that I like the Avengers Hulk or the Avengers in general. I fucking hate it. And that will be for a video that I will make in the future. But, I mean, here's the thing. The CGI of 2003's Hulk looks extremely plastic and very clayish. Just a clayish, plastic, green monster, pretty much. And for people who say that it's an early 2000s movie and it's the best possible CGI they could have ever got for its time, so it gets like a pass or whatever, I don't believe that. I'm sorry, but I don't. I mean, look at 1993's Jurassic Park. And that's a decade before Ang Lee's Hulk movie came out. An entire decade. And not to mention, that was in the early 90s. And think about how great the CGI is in 1993's Jurassic Park. It's way ahead of its time, without a doubt. And not to mention, it still holds up to this very day. Not only did it probably amaze people at the time and just stun people and blow people's minds on how great it was, especially for its time, but even to this day, its CGI is still great and still holds up. That's what you call a great movie right there. And great CGI and special effects all around. And so there's no reason that the 2003 Hulk movie's CGI couldn't have been better than what it was. No reason. And, you know, the soundtrack for the movie is bad. Even that is bad. And then you have pretty much the fight scenes where he fights the Hulk dogs. And you know what? I actually think that's actually a good scene, in my own personal opinion. But I think what made people laugh at it is that you have a Hulk poodle. A Hulk poodle. I mean, why the actual fuck would you get a Hulk poodle of anything, of any dog? Why not get dogs that are actually vicious, such as Rottweilers, Pit Bulls, and Bull Mastiffs, to be Hulk dogs? Just those three specific kinds and types of dogs. I mean, why in the hell would you need to get a Hulk poodle? That was a mistake, obviously. And then you have like the transformation scenes where Eric Bana transforms into the Hulk. The first time, I actually think it was good. The second time, when he's getting like beat up or whatever, and he says, "You're making me angry, you won't like me when I'm angry," that scene looks like he's extremely severely constipated. It doesn't look cool at all. Now, I do think when he's the Hulk during that scene, it actually looks pretty good, as well as the first time he transforms. And I don't mean the transformation scene, I mean when he's finally like the Hulk in that scene and starts beating up that guy who was beating him up. And, you know, then you have the Hulk's roar. Man, the Hulk's roar in 2003's Ang Lee Hulk movie is so weak and so lazy and just so pitiful, terrible, horrible, and just awful. I mean, it literally sounds like a man who's fucking constipated. And the Hulk's roar is supposed to sound, well, thunderous and monstrous. It's supposed to sound just booming and bellowing and like pretty much like a Tyrannosaurus Rex roar or something. I mean, it's supposed to sound like epic even in itself, even just the roar alone. But the roar in 2003's Hulk sounds very, very weak. Very lazy, very cheesy, and just very pitiful, terrible, horrible, awful, and just absolutely flat out horrendous. Is such a lazy attempt. Such a lazy attempt at making the Hulk's roar. And then you have some other fight sequences, such as there's a desert fight sequence in 2003's Hulk, where he's fighting tanks. And those are the scenes where you really get to see firsthand the strength of that Hulk in that movie. And the strength of the Hulk in 2003's Ang Lee Hulk movie is extremely pathetically weak and lazy and pitiful. And I mean, I can prove that too. You can watch those scenes for yourself on YouTube where the Hulk's in the desert and he's fighting off tanks and soldiers. And he's like punching and whatever a tank, and he can barely dent it. He can barely even fucking dent it. And then he pulls a part of a tank off, like the top part of a tank off this one tank, and then he uses it as like a club or weapon to like cause damage to this other tank, as if the Hulk, like in the comics, can't literally fucking flatten a tank like a pancake, or a car, or a human for that matter, or even a fucking building. But definitely at least tanks, cars, and any other vehicles pretty much, the Hulk should be able to easily flatten, because the Hulk's strength is supposed to be just unmatched and just out of control and just extremely strong and tough as fuck. But 2003's Hulk's strength is very pathetic, very lazy, very dull, very weak, pitiful, and just lame. It's lame. And it's sad at how lame it honestly is. And then you can see also a scene during pretty much those scenes where he's fighting off soldiers and tanks in the desert, where he picks up this one tank, tips it over, and starts dumping out the soldiers. Like, really? Dumping out the soldiers instead of just crushing the tank with the soldiers inside and making it all that more brutal and maybe kind of exciting. But no, that Hulk's strength is very weak, obviously, so he can't. So he has to dump out the soldiers, and then he whips the tank into the air. I mean, I guess that's okay, but flattening the tanks would have been so much more cooler. But again, his Hulk's strength in that movie, at least, is incredibly weak, lazy, lame, pitiful, and just... it just sucks. It just sucks that much. And, you know, I mean, even in like other scenes, there's another scene where there's like these planes firing missiles at him, and he grabs one missile and he bites off the top and he spits it at one of the planes and it makes it explode, but it doesn't even explode that much. And he grabs a missile instead of, I don't know, just throwing the whole missile back, and he bites off the top of it. That's fucking retarded. I don't know about you, but in my opinion, that's fucking retarded. And you know what? I mean, these are just all the reasons this movie should have never existed. And I mean, even the CGI of the absorbing man in that movie is fake as fuck. Very cheesy, very lame, very pathetic, and just pitiful attempt at CGI, even for its time. I mean, look at all the Jurassic Park movies. They have better CGI. Look at the Lord of the Rings movies. They have better CGI. Like, think about the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, released in 2001, 2 years before Ang Lee's Hulk movie came out. And think of the scene when they're in Moria fighting the troll. That troll was realistic as fuck. And not only was it realistic as fuck, especially for its time, but its roar was amazing and epic. And made you feel like scared, especially if you're a kid. But the 2003 Hulk's roar is just pathetic. And you know, I myself would have much rather preferred to have had Edward Norton's origin story of the Hulk on the big screen than Eric Bana's. I'm just going to say that right now. And also, you know, it doesn't make sense too, because Eric Bana even admits later that he was terrified at the time that if the movie had been a success, that he would have only been able to play one character, one certain specific character, for like a certain amount of time in like many movies of just one character, and he didn't want to have to do that. And he even apologized to people who hate the movie so much, which is kind of sad, because he's shocked at how much people hated that movie, and he literally said that he's sorry, but he doesn't regret making it, but he feels bad that it got so trashed as it did. But like I said, I would have much rather preferred Edward Norton's Hulk origin story on the big screen than Eric Bana's. And I wish it never existed. Anyway, I'm out.